There comes a moment in every heart when we must ask ourselves, what kind of love have we truly known? Have we ever been touched by a kindness that looked like light but left us in darkness? There are people who wear compassion like a costume, who speak softly yet wound deeply, who offer help not to lift us up but to hold us down. They call it kindness, but it is kindness that drains the soul instead of healing it. You see, the most dangerous deception is not the hatred we can see, but the affection that blinds us, the smile that feels warm but hides control, the gesture that feels caring but demands something in return. This is the kindness of the narcissist, a counterfeit form of love meant to keep you dependent, confused, and small. But the truth is, no one's false kindness can define your worth. You were not created to be manipulated, used, or silenced. You were made for freedom, for peace, and for a love that gives without taking. Today is not about bitterness or revenge. It is about awakening. Awakening to the truth that real kindness does not imprison, it liberates. And once you see the difference, you will never again mistake control for care, or flattery for love. Would you like me to continue this into the ** main motivational body, ** of the speech, with the same spiritual and powerful tone? There are moments in life when the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who wound you the deepest. They don't come with harsh words or angry hands. They come with smiles, gifts, and gentle tones. They come dressed in kindness, but that kindness has a purpose, and it isn't love, it's control. It's a mask, a disguise that hides manipulation under the surface of affection. They call it love, but it's a weapon built to shape you into what they need, not who you were created to be. You start to believe that every good deed has a hidden meaning, every compliment a silent expectation. You begin to walk on eggshells around the very people who once promised you safety. And soon you forget what real kindness feels like, because their version of it has taught you that love must always come with pain. But deep down, there's a voice inside that whispers, "This isn't right." That voice is your spirit trying to remind you of who you are before their false kindness took hold of your heart. Real love doesn't manipulate, it liberates. It doesn't take power, it shares it. It doesn't demand loyalty through fear, it earns trust through truth. When someone uses kindness as a weapon, what they fear most is your awakening, because once you see the truth, you take back your power. You start to rebuild the walls they tore down, not as barriers, but as boundaries that protect your peace. The mask may have fooled you once, but it cannot fool you forever. You learn to look beyond words and study actions. You learn to find peace in solitude rather than chaos in company. You stop chasing approval and start choosing authenticity. And in that choice you rise, because every time false kindness tries to break you, it only teaches you to love yourself better, to see clearer, to live freer. That's when you realize the greatest kindness you'll ever know is the one you give to yourself. The kind that heals, the kind that restores, the kind that no one can ever use against you. There's a kind of sweetness that leaves a bitter taste long after it's gone. It comes from those who wrap their intentions in charm, who know exactly what to say, how to smile, and when to show up just enough to keep you believing in them. Their words sound gentle, their gestures seem generous, but behind every act lies a quiet calculation. They don't give to give, they give to gain. Every favor has a price, every compliment has a hook, and every good deed carries a silent demand for something in return. At first, you don't see it. You tell yourself they care, that maybe you're just overthinking. But slowly the pattern begins to show. The kindness starts to feel heavy. The gratitude they expect feels like a chain around your heart, and the more you give to keep their peace, the more you lose your own. You realize their sweetness was never meant to heal you. It was meant to bind you. They needed your praise, your energy, your loyalty, and they bought it with false affection. But when that truth hits, something inside you begins to shift. You start to see that genuine love never needs to be bought, never needs to be proven. Real kindness doesn't keep score. It doesn't remind you of what it has done for you. It simply does. And once you see the difference, you stop apologizing for pulling away. You stop explaining your silence. You stop feeding what only drains you. There's freedom in recognizing manipulation for what it is. You learn to separate sweet words from sincere ones. You begin to measure people not by what they say, but by how they make your soul feel. And you understand that not everyone who does good things has good motives. So you stop chasing validation and start walking in discernment. You learn to do good without expecting reward, to love without losing yourself. That's where strength is born in knowing that your worth isn't tied to anyone's approval. Because the moment you stop being fooled by their sweet words, you take back the power they once held, and you start living from a place of truth, peace, and unshakable self-respect. There comes a time when you look back and wonder how you ever believed their words, how you ever thought their kindness was real. You remember the smiles, the attention, the way they made you feel like the only one in the room. It felt like safety, like connection, like finally being seen. But what you didn't know was that it was never about love, it was about control. They studied your heart, learned your wounds, and played the perfect role to fit inside them. They became the answer to your loneliness, the comfort to your pain, the voice that echoed what you wanted to hear. And that's how the trap was set, not through cruelty, but through charm. You fell for their illusion because you had a heart that wanted to believe in goodness. You wanted to think people meant what they said. That's not weakness, that's humanity. The trap worked because they knew how to feed the hope inside you while quietly starving your strength. Every act of kindness was a thread, and before you knew it, you were wrapped in a web that felt like love but functioned like a cage. But the moment you see it, everything changes. Awareness breaks the illusion. You realize that what held you wasn't their love. It was your belief in what love should have been. And when that realization hits, you start to reclaim your power piece by piece. You stop mistaking attention for affection. You stop confusing flattery for faithfulness. You stop believing that being chosen means being cherished. The emotional trap loses its grip the moment you decide to value truth over fantasy. You start to rebuild yourself from the inside out. You learn that real love doesn't play games with your mind or make you question your worth. Real kindness doesn't manipulate, it nurtures. And when you begin to understand that, you walk away not with anger, but with clarity. You see that their illusion only worked because your heart was open, and that's nothing to be ashamed of, because now you carry wisdom where there was once confusion, and strength where there was once pain. And that strength will guide you to the kind of love that doesn't need illusions to be real. There comes a moment when the fog begins to lift, when the charm that once blinded you starts to lose its shine. You begin to see that the smile you once trusted so deeply was never about love. It was about control. It was a mask worn by someone who needed you to believe in their goodness, so you wouldn't question their intentions. For so long, that smile made you feel safe, made you believe you were special. But now you know it was never about your worth. It was about their power. The awakening doesn't come easy. It hurts to accept that what felt real was built on deception. You replay every moment, every kind word, every gentle touch, trying to understand how something so warm could come from a place so cold. But the truth isn't there to break you, it's there to free you. Because once you see beyond the smile, you stop mistaking manipulation for love. You stop letting someone else's version of truth silence your own. It's in that awakening that you find your strength again. You start to trust your instincts, those quiet warnings you used to ignore. You realize your intuition was never wrong. You were just too kind to believe someone could be so false. You start to notice the patterns you once excused, the small lies you brushed aside, the apologies that never changed anything, and you stop giving chances to the same pain that keeps dressing itself in kindness. Seeing beyond the smile is more than recognition. It's rebirth. It's the moment your heart stands up and says, "No more." You stop craving validation from those who never meant to understand you. You stop trying to fix what was never yours to heal. You start walking in truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, because you've learned that peace without pretense is worth more than affection built on lies. And in that truth, something powerful happens. You become unshakable. The same smile that once deceived you now reminds you how far you've come. You no longer need their approval to feel whole. You see clearly, you stand firmly, and you walk boldly in a love that begins with you. That is the beauty of awakening, not just seeing the truth, but finally living in it. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking why they hurt you and start asking what the pain came to teach you. The deception that once broke you becomes the very force that builds you. Every lie you believed, every false promise you held on to, every tear you cried in silence, they all become pieces of a story that leads to your strength. What once felt like betrayal now becomes the birthplace of your awakening, because pain, when faced with courage, doesn't destroy you. It refines you. You begin to understand that the people who deceived you were never meant to define your worth. They were meant to reveal it. Their manipulation showed you what truth looks like. Their selfishness taught you the power of self-respect. Their false kindness reminded you that real love doesn't demand your silence. It celebrates your voice. Every wound they caused opened a door for wisdom to walk in. Empowerment begins when you decide that what happened to you will not be the end of your story. You take back your voice, your energy, your peace. You start to rebuild, not from bitterness, but from clarity. You stop carrying the weight of what was done to you and start walking in the strength of what you've become. You realize you no longer need closure from them, because you've already found it within yourself. Turning pain into purpose is not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about refusing to let it define you. It's about using that pain as a compass that points you toward healing, growth, and truth. You start helping others see the traps you once fell into. You speak with the kind of strength that only comes from surviving deception and rising anyway. And that's when you understand that empowerment isn't given, it's earned through every battle you fought and every piece of yourself you reclaimed. You may have been deceived, but you are not defeated. You are wiser now, stronger now, grounded in truth and guided by grace. The pain that once broke your heart has now built your purpose. And every time you choose to love yourself enough to walk away from falsehood, you turn that pain into power, and that power into peace in the end. What once felt like the breaking of your spirit becomes the making of your strength. You realize that every false smile, every empty promise, every painful goodbye was shaping you into someone wiser, steadier, and more aware of your worth. The illusion no longer holds you because truth now lives within you. You no longer chase love that costs your peace or kindness that hides control. You've learned to stand firm, to love yourself without apology, and to walk in freedom that cannot be faked. Your past no longer defines you, it refines you. And as you rise from the ashes of deception, you shine with a light that no darkness can dim. You are proof that even after the deepest betrayal, the heart can heal, the soul can grow, and purpose can be born from pain. That is your victory, and no one can take it away.